In the year 2029, the world was already changing fast. Technology had reached new heights, and people were used to hearing about strange things happening in space. But one night, something truly unusual happened. A small team of astronomers working at a radio observatory in Spain picked up a signal that did not sound like anything they had heard before. It wasn't just random noise. It had rhythm, order, and patterns that looked too perfect to be natural. The lead scientist, Dr. Elena Vargas, stayed up all night staring at the data, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. She had studied space signals for 15 years, and she knew when something was real. This was real. The signal repeated itself every 27 minutes like a heartbeat. At first, the team thought it might be a glitch or a reflection of Earth's own transmissions. But when other observatories across the world confirmed it, there was no doubt anymore. The signal was coming from beyond the Kuiper Belt, the farthest region of our solar system, where sunlight is only a faint whisper. No human technology could have sent it from there. Whatever was calling out was not from Earth. Dr. Vargas felt a strange mix of joy and dread. For generations, people had wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now it seemed the question had been answered, but the message was not what anyone expected. When her team began decoding the pattern, they realized it was not random mathematics. The shapes and sequences carried meaning. With computer assistance, they translated some parts of it. What they found made the room fall silent. The message was a plea. It said, "We are dying. Help us." News of the discovery spread like wildfire. Within days, every major news channel in the world was talking about it. Some called it a hoax. Others said it was proof of life beyond Earth. Religious leaders gave emotional speeches. Some said it was a sign from heaven. Others warned it was a test or a trap. Social media exploded with debates, theories, and panic. Governments tried to keep calm, but the fear in their statements was easy to see. In Spain, Dr. Vargas became an overnight celebrity. She was invited to speak at the United Nations, where she explained that the signal contained coordinates, a specific point in space just beyond Pluto. The message wasn't just a cry for help. It was an invitation to find them. "They are not asking for war," she said softly before the council. "They are asking for rescue." Still, not everyone believed her. Some world powers, especially those with strong military programs, saw danger instead of wonder. What if it was a trap to lure humans into the unknown? What if it was an enemy trying to find our weaknesses? But for many ordinary people, hope was stronger than fear. Across the globe, millions watched the stars at night, whispering to themselves that maybe humanity had a chance to do something truly good, to save another species instead of destroying one. Dr. Vargas worked day and night with her team to learn more. The signal's language grew clearer over time. It used simple math and repeating geometric codes, suggesting the senders were trying to communicate with intelligence similar to ours. It also included sound waves, something like voices, though distorted. The sounds were mournful, filled with static and sorrow. They didn't sound like words, more like crying mixed with music. The more the team studied it, the more they realized how desperate the senders were. Governments held secret meetings. Space agencies like NASA, ESA, and even private companies such as SpaceX and Blue Origin came together in rare cooperation. They decided to form a joint effort called Project Dawnreach. Its purpose, to create a spacecraft that could reach the coordinates and see who was calling for help. But while scientists worked with open hearts, politicians and military advisors worked with caution. Quietly, they began discussing defense contingencies. If the beings were dangerous, Earth needed to be ready. Humanity's history of fear was already creeping into what could have been a mission of compassion. Meanwhile, the world changed in small but strange ways. People started writing letters to the sky. Children drew pictures of what the aliens might look like. Tall, kind beings with glowing eyes and long arms reaching out for help. Artists painted murals of humans and aliens shaking hands. Churches filled with people praying for peace among the stars. But there were also protests. Some groups shouted that helping aliens would anger God. Others claimed the signal was from demons or an enemy nation testing secret technology. The world was divided between wonder and suspicion. Dr. Vargas ignored the noise and focused on the work. She often thought about what the message meant. "We are dying. Help us." It sounded so simple, but the emotion behind it was heartbreaking. What kind of world would send such a message across the emptiness of space? What tragedy had forced them to reach out to strangers millions of miles away? At night, when the observatory was silent and the others had gone home, she would sit alone, looking at the stars and whisper, "We hear you." Months passed. Scientists from Japan, America, and France joined the decoding project. Together, they built a clearer picture. The signal wasn't continuous. It seemed to fade every few days as if the source was running out of power. That meant time was running out for whoever sent it. The alien's message showed an image, a rough mathematical drawing that looked like a shattered planet surrounded by fragments. They seemed to be telling humans that their home was gone. The next part of the signal showed something that looked like a ship, large, oval, and glowing, drifting in space. They had escaped, but they were dying slowly. For Dr. Vargas, this was no longer just science. It was personal. She had lost her husband years ago in a mining accident caused by corporate greed. She had seen how humanity could destroy itself for profit. Now she saw another civilization begging for help, and she was determined not to let them suffer the same way. Late one evening, while reviewing data, she received a message from an American general working with the Space Coalition. It said, "Prepare your team. If this mission proceeds, you'll be leading it." She froze, staring at the words. The realization hit her. She might be the first human to meet beings from another world. The thought filled her with awe but also fear. What if they were not what they seemed? What if helping them led to something darker? But she pushed those thoughts aside. Humanity had to try. For once, it had to choose compassion over caution. She sent a message to her international colleagues. If they are asking for help, then we must go. It's what makes us human. In the following weeks, the world watched as Project Dawnreach was officially announced. Reporters surrounded the launch sites and documentaries started filming every stage of preparation. It was called the greatest mission in human history. Yet beneath the smiles and speeches, tension brewed. Governments argued over who would control the mission. Scientists wanted open cooperation, but military leaders wanted security. Plans were delayed as nations fought over ownership of the alien data. Meanwhile, the signal grew weaker. Each time they tried to contact the senders, the response was slower, softer, like a dying heartbeat fading away. Dr. Vargas barely slept. She felt time slipping away. Every day that humans hesitated, the chance to save the unknown beings grew smaller. At last, after 6 months of political battles, the world leaders reached an agreement. A single spacecraft would be launched, carrying representatives from multiple nations. It would be equipped with medical equipment, translation software, and defensive systems, a mix of mercy and mistrust. Dr. Vargas was chosen to lead the science team. When she stepped in front of the cameras, she didn't read the speech prepared for her. Instead, she looked directly at the crowd and said, "If someone far from here sent us a message like this, we would want someone to listen. Today we choose to listen." The crowd erupted in applause, but behind the applause was tension. Some people celebrated her as a hero. Others called her a fool. But no matter what anyone said, the countdown to launch had begun. Humanity was about to take its first step not just into deep space, but into the unknown heart of empathy and fear. That night, as Dr. Vargas stood on the observatory balcony, she looked up at the stars again. The signal had almost faded now, just a faint whisper in the dark. She closed her eyes and imagined the beings waiting out there, weak and afraid, wondering if anyone would come. She whispered to the sky one last time, "Hold on, we're coming." And somewhere far beyond the edge of the solar system, a tiny pulse of light flickered back, as if answering her. It was the smallest of signs, but for Dr. Vargas and for all of humanity, it meant everything. The signal was real. The plea was real. The story of two worlds had just begun. The news of the alien signal had changed everything. For the first time in human history, every major nation was focused on one single goal: to reach the mysterious source of the message beyond the Kuiper Belt. Scientists called it the greatest challenge ever attempted. Politicians called it a risk worth taking, and millions of people around the world called it hope. But behind all the excitement, fear still lived quietly in the corners of every meeting room. People wanted to believe the aliens needed help, but nobody truly knew what waited out there. Dr. Elena Vargas found herself standing at the center of this whirlwind. Only months ago, she was just a scientist studying cosmic signals. Now she was leading the planning of a mission that could change the future of the entire human race. Every day she attended meetings with space agencies, engineers, and even military officials. The project was named Project Dawnreach, a name chosen to represent humanity reaching into the unknown with a light of compassion. But Elena could sense that not everyone in the project shared that same feeling of compassion. Some wanted to explore, some wanted to protect, and others wanted to control. The mission was to build a spacecraft that could travel beyond Pluto faster than anything ever created. The journey would take months, maybe years. The ship had to carry supplies, medical tools, and translators, things that could help if the aliens were alive. Scientists designed it with care, imagining the beings it might meet. But as work continued, small changes began to appear in the blueprints. Extra compartments were added, then sealed off. Military software was installed for safety reasons. Drones capable of scanning and collecting materials were included, though no one officially said why. Dr. Vargas noticed all these additions, and though she felt uneasy, she tried to stay focused on the main goal, to help. While engineers built the spacecraft, the world outside reacted with mixed emotions. Crowds gathered outside launch centers carrying signs that said, "Save them or don't go." Religious groups warned that reaching out to another world would bring punishment. But others believed this was destiny. Children sent letters addressed to the lost aliens asking if they liked music or sunsets. In classrooms everywhere, teachers talked about space and hope filled young hearts. Humanity had never been so united and yet so divided. Dr. Vargas gave interviews almost every day. Reporters wanted to know what she thought the aliens looked like, how they spoke, what their world was like. She always answered carefully, saying, "I don't know yet, but we will find out. And when we do, I hope we can show them the best side of who we are." Her words inspired millions, but they also drew criticism. Some politicians accused her of being too emotional, too idealistic. "We don't know if they're peaceful," one senator said on live television. "We should be ready for war, not friendship." Still, the building continued. The spacecraft, named Solace 1, began to take shape in a massive hangar in New Mexico. It was sleek, silver, and powered by a new fusion engine that could push it faster than any previous probe. Its design combined technology from several countries: Japan's navigation systems, Germany's propulsion research, and India's radiation shielding. The project truly represented global cooperation, even if that cooperation was sometimes forced by fear. Elena often walked through the hangar at night when everyone else had gone home. She would touch the cold metal of the ship and imagine it floating through the darkness, heading toward those distant lives calling for help. She wondered what it would feel like to meet beings from another world, to look into eyes that had seen different suns, different skies. Would they understand kindness? Would they understand fear? She didn't know. But she believed they would understand hope. As months passed, training began for the crew. Commander Raj Patel, a calm and experienced astronaut from India, was chosen to lead the flight. He had a reputation for steady leadership and quiet bravery. When he first met Dr. Vargas, he smiled and said, "You bring the heart, I'll bring the calm." Together they built a strong friendship based on respect and trust. The crew included scientists, engineers, a linguist, and a medical doctor. Every member was carefully selected not only for skill, but also for emotional strength. They all knew this mission might be one way. The world watched every step. News channels broadcast documentaries showing the progress of Solace 1. School children made models of the ship. Social media filled with countdown posts. For a brief moment, it felt like humanity was standing together. Yet behind closed doors, secret meetings took place. Certain governments demanded access to the ship's communication system. "We must protect our interests," they said. To some, this mission was about survival and opportunity, not kindness. If the aliens had advanced technology, it could be worth billions. The same compassion that inspired many also attracted greed in others. Dr. Vargas began to notice the tone of meetings changing. When she asked for more focus on translation software, a military advisor interrupted her. "Our first priority is safety," he said sharply. "If we find anything dangerous, we neutralize it." The word neutralize echoed in her mind for days. She argued that the mission was about rescue, not defense, but her protests were met with polite silence. From then on, she realized that not everyone on Earth wanted to save the aliens. Some only wanted to study or control them. The launch date grew closer. Tests of the ship went smoothly. Commander Patel often visited Elena in her lab to check on progress. One evening, as they watched the stars through the observation deck, he said quietly, "You know, Elena, people keep asking if I'm afraid. But what scares me most is not what's out there. It's what we'll bring with us." She understood immediately. Humanity was taking its best scientists and explorers, but it was also taking its fears, its pride, and its hunger for power. Finally, after 2 long years of preparation, Solace 1 was ready. The day of the launch was clear and cold. Millions of people around the world watched live as the countdown began. 10, 9, 8. Dr. Vargas stood beside Commander Patel, both wearing flight suits, both silent. When the engines roared to life, the ground shook like thunder. Fire and light filled the sky as the ship lifted slowly, then faster, breaking through the clouds like a rising sun. Humanity had done it. They were reaching for another world, another chance. For the first few hours of flight, the world celebrated. People cheered, cried, and prayed. News anchors smiled with tears in their eyes. Humanity has taken its first step into the unknown. Not to conquer, but to save, one said. But far away in a dark meeting room, military leaders spoke in low voices. "Once they make contact," said one, "we secure the technology." Another replied, "And if they resist?" The answer came coldly, "Then we do what's necessary." Unaware of those conversations, the crew of Solace 1 continued their journey. Inside the spacecraft, the atmosphere was a mix of excitement and tension. Dr. Vargas spent her time studying the signal still faintly reaching them. Every few days it flickered, growing weaker. Sometimes a few new symbols appeared. Maybe new words, maybe just interference. She couldn't tell. But she felt that whoever had sent the message was still alive, still waiting. Days turned into weeks. As the ship moved farther from Earth, the blue planet became smaller, just a tiny marble in the black sea of space. The crew often gathered at the viewing window, staring at it in silence. "That's home," said Commander Patel once softly. "All we've ever known." Elena watched too, thinking how small humanity really was. From this distance, all their arguments, their fears, their greed, it all seemed meaningless. During the journey, the crew recorded video messages for Earth. Dr. Vargas sent one addressed to every child watching. "We are all explorers," she said gently. "We are all caretakers of life, no matter where it comes from. If we can help, we must help." Her message went viral, played in classrooms and homes. For a while, her words made people believe again in goodness. After several months, Solace 1 finally reached the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Strange readings began to appear on their instruments, faint energy waves that matched the signal's pattern. Dr. Vargas leaned forward, her hands trembling as she watched the monitor. The signal was strong again, pulsing like a heartbeat. Commander Patel ordered the ship to slow down. Ahead of them in the darkness, something enormous glimmered faintly, a shape unlike anything they had ever seen. It wasn't a planet or a rock. It looked like a structure broken and glowing from within. Elena felt tears fill her eyes. After years of searching, after endless nights of doubt, they had found it. "It's them," she whispered. "We found them." The crew fell silent, staring in awe. Humanity had crossed the boundary between myth and reality. But as their ship moved closer, the radar showed something else. Smaller objects surrounding the structure, moving slowly. At first they thought it was debris. But then one of the objects changed direction. It wasn't floating, it was flying. Commander Patel's calm voice came through the radio. "Everyone stay sharp. We're not alone anymore." Dr. Vargas felt a mix of joy and fear. Humanity had come to save, but now they were stepping into the unknown. She could only hope that the beings waiting for them still believed in peace, because humanity was bringing not only its compassion, but also its fury. The first sight of the alien craft left everyone speechless. It floated silently in the darkness, half shattered and covered in a dim blue light that pulsed weakly, like the heartbeat of a dying creature. It was enormous, so large that Solace 1, the human ship, looked like a toy beside it. The outer shell was cracked open, with pieces of metal drifting slowly around it like frozen tears. Through the breaks in the hull, faint glows flickered, suggesting that someone was still alive inside. Dr. Elena Vargas stood at the viewing window, her hands trembling. "This is it," she whispered. "This is where the signal came from." Commander Raj Patel stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the mysterious structure. "Prepare a scan," he said calmly, though his voice carried tension. The crew followed his orders quickly, their faces pale with awe. The scans revealed breathable air inside the ship, though weak and full of radiation. The life forms inside were fading fast. The readings showed 6 life signs, barely holding on. Dr. Vargas felt her chest tighten. "We have to get in there," she said. "Now." Commander Patel agreed, and the crew prepared to enter the alien vessel. When the airlock opened, silence filled their ears. Only the faint hum of the ship's dying systems could be heard. They floated inside slowly, their lights cutting through the thick, dust-like mist. The walls were unlike anything they had ever seen. Metal that seemed to shimmer and move, almost alive, responding to their touch with soft pulses of light. Symbols glowed faintly along the corridors, matching the patterns from the signal they had received months ago. Then they found them. 6 beings lay in what looked like a medical chamber. Their bodies were thin, almost transparent, with skin that shimmered between silver and pale blue. They had long limbs and large eyes that reflected the crew's faces like mirrors. Their breathing was shallow and unsteady. Tubes of unknown material connected them to strange glowing containers that pulsed weakly. Dr. Vargas felt tears welling in her eyes. "They're alive," she said softly. "They're really alive." The crew worked quickly. Using translation software and medical scanners, they began trying to stabilize the alien's condition. The being's vitals were weak, but when Dr. Vargas touched one gently on the hand, its eyes flickered open. For a second, it looked straight at her. Its gaze wasn't threatening, it was pleading. It whispered a faint sound, soft and trembling. The translator tried to process it, and a voice came through their earpieces. "Help, please." Dr. Vargas froze, overcome with emotion. They had traveled billions of kilometers, and now the voice they had heard for so long was finally real. Right in front of them. She nodded, whispering back, "We're here to help." The crew worked together, setting up portable energy sources and filtering the air. Slowly, the weak pulse of the alien life signs began to strengthen. The beings seemed peaceful, fragile, more like survivors than soldiers. They watched the humans curiously, their glowing eyes full of pain and exhaustion. One of them reached toward Dr. Vargas, pressing its hand against her arm. For a moment, she felt warmth spread through her skin, followed by a strange image flashing in her mind. An image of a burning world, a star collapsing into fire, and ships fleeing into the dark. She gasped, stepping back, but the alien lowered its head sadly, as if apologizing. Later, in the control room of Solace 1, the crew gathered to analyze the data. The recordings from the alien ship showed that their home star had exploded, leaving their planet destroyed. The survivors had escaped in a few massive ships, hoping to find a new world. But radiation and cosmic storms had damaged their vessels. They had been drifting for centuries, living in pain and silence, waiting for someone, anyone, to hear them. Dr. Vargas realized that the signal wasn't a warning or a trap. It was a cry from a civilization that had lost everything. When the message was transmitted back to Earth, the reaction was explosive. The whole planet celebrated. News outlets showed images of the aliens being helped by human scientists. People cried and cheered, believing that a new age of peace had begun. "We did it," one reporter said on live television. "Humanity has become the savior of another world." But in the halls of power, the mood was different. Governments didn't see it as salvation. They saw it as opportunity. The alien ship was made of materials unknown to human science. Its power core still emitted strange energy readings. Military analysts immediately noticed. They began asking questions. What if this technology could be used? What if the energy source could solve Earth's fuel crisis or become a new kind of weapon? Dr. Vargas didn't care about that. She focused on the beings, now resting safely inside Solace 1's medical bay. She named them the Alens, after an ancient word meaning wanderers. The Alens were weak but kind. They responded to gestures, learned simple words, and even smiled faintly when shown pictures of Earth. One of them, slightly taller than the others, seemed to be their leader. He communicated through light patterns in his eyes, which the translator slowly began to understand. He told Dr. Vargas that their home star had died long ago. "We traveled," the translation said softly. "We searched. We found no home." Dr. Vargas listened, her heart breaking. "You found us," she said. "We'll help you." But even as she spoke, she knew that not everyone on Earth shared her kindness. After several days, Earth's military command contacted Commander Patel. They ordered the crew to secure all alien technology and prepare samples for transport. The orders were strict. Minimal information should be shared with the aliens themselves. Commander Patel argued, "We're rescuers, not thieves." But the voice on the other end replied coldly, "You are under direct authority." "Do your duty." Dr. Vargas overheard the conversation and confronted Patel. "You can't let them take control," she said. "They'll use these beings," Patel sighed. "I'll do what I can," he said quietly. "But you know how this works." He looked tired, older than before. Once the military gets involved, it's no longer about compassion. It's about control. As Solace One prepared to send a data transmission to Earth, strange interference began to appear in their systems. The alien ship, though dying, still had active defenses. Its memory cores seemed to resist human scans, almost as if aware of being studied. Dr. Vargas noticed this and told her team to stop pushing too hard. "We should earn their trust," she said, "not break into their secrets." But the military scientists on Earth disagreed. They sent override codes remotely, forcing Solace One's computers to dig deeper. The aliens sensed what was happening. Their calm eyes turned sorrowful. The leader approached Dr. Vargas and touched her hand again. A vision filled her mind, a memory of their people being hunted not by enemies but by desperation. "You're kind." "Same," the translator whispered. "Fire inside, burning." Dr. Vargas didn't understand fully, but she felt shame. Maybe the aliens already knew what humanity was capable of. Soon after, Solace One received another encrypted order from Earth. New ships were on their way, carrying military teams and corporate scientists. Their mission was to secure and protect the alien vessel. Commander Patel read the message in silence. When he looked up, his face was grim. "They're sending soldiers," he said. Dr. Vargas felt anger rising in her chest. "They're coming to take everything," she said. "They'll destroy what we found." Patel didn't answer. He knew she was right. In the next few days, tension grew among the crew. Some believed they should follow orders and let Earth handle things. Others sided with Dr. Vargas, believing the aliens needed protection, not capture. Meanwhile, the aliens grew weaker again, their energy fading. Dr. Vargas stayed with them constantly, speaking softly, holding their hands. She could feel their pain, their fear, and something else, a deep sadness, as if they already knew how this story would end. Then, something unexpected happened. As the crew worked, the leader of the aliens looked directly into the camera and began to send a message. Not to Solace One, but to Earth. The symbols flashed rapidly across every monitor. The translator struggled to keep up, but one phrase became clear. "We come in peace. We bring no harm. Why do you fear?" The words echoed in the command center. Dr. Vargas smiled sadly. "They don't understand," she whispered. "They think we're here to save them. They don't know how much fear rules us." When the translation reached Earth, it caused chaos again. Some leaders demanded full control over the situation. Others begged for diplomacy. But it was too late. The first military ships had already left Earth's orbit, loaded with weapons for protection. Humanity was coming, not with mercy, but with force. Dr. Vargas stood by the viewing window, staring at the stars. She felt tears roll down her face. "We answered their call," she said softly, "but we brought our fury with us." The alien leader, weak and fading, reached toward her one last time. "Light and fire," he whispered through the translator. "Always both." As she held his fragile hand, Dr. Vargas realized the terrible truth. Humanity had crossed space not to prove its kindness, but to test its soul, and the test was only just beginning. The silence after the message from the aliens was heavy, almost painful. Everyone on Solace One could feel it. That deep, uneasy quiet that comes when you realize something terrible is about to happen. The aliens, weak and peaceful, had reached out to humanity with trust, but the humans on Earth saw something else. They saw technology, power, and opportunity. What had started as a rescue mission slowly began to turn into something darker. Dr. Elena Vargas noticed the change first. Her daily communication with the mission center on Earth grew shorter and colder. Questions about the aliens' health were replaced with demands for information about their ship's materials, their energy systems, and their technology. Each time she sent medical updates, she was met with the same response. Focus on collecting samples. One evening, Commander Raj Patel called an emergency meeting. The crew gathered in the main control room, the dim blue light from the alien ship shining faintly through the window. His face was serious, his tone heavy. "We've just received a new order," he said. "Earth Command has officially taken control of the mission. They're sending extraction teams." The room fell silent. Everyone knew what extraction meant. It meant soldiers, machines, and force. Dr. Vargas stood up immediately. "That's not what we came here for," she said angrily. "We came to help them, not to take their ship apart." Commander Patel looked at her sadly. "I know," he said softly. "But the decision's been made. They're saying it's for research and safety." Dr. Vargas clenched her fists. "Safety from what? These beings are dying. They've done nothing to harm us." Patel didn't answer. He didn't need to. Everyone in the room knew the truth. Fear was now in charge. Humanity's oldest habit had returned, the need to control what it doesn't understand. Days later, the first military fleet arrived. 3 large ships surrounded the alien vessel, their engines glowing red against the blackness of space. Soldiers in black suits began setting up docking stations and equipment. They greeted the Solace One crew with polite smiles, but their eyes were cold and distant. Their leader, Colonel Harkins, stepped forward. "We appreciate your work, Doctor," he said with a stiff nod. "Now we'll take it from here." Dr. Vargas glared at him. "Take what exactly?" she asked. "These are living beings. You can't just—" He cut her off sharply. "Our orders are to secure all alien assets and ensure human safety. Your cooperation is expected." The word assets made her stomach turn. She realized that the aliens were no longer seen as lives, but as objects. Over the next few days, the mood on Solace One grew tense. Soldiers moved through the corridors, scanning and tagging everything. They brought heavy containers and tools that looked more like weapons than scientific instruments. The aliens watched them quietly, their glowing eyes full of confusion. They didn't understand why the humans who once helped them were now acting like jailers. Dr. Vargas tried to keep the soldiers away from the medical bay, but it was impossible. One day, a group of armed men entered without permission. "We're under orders to take readings," one of them said. She stood in their way. "You'll do it over my dead body," she snapped. For a moment, it looked like they might push past her, but Commander Patel arrived and ordered them out. "Not until Earth Command gives me the order directly," he said firmly. The soldiers left, but not before one muttered under his breath, "You'll regret this, Commander." That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She sat beside the alien leader, who was growing weaker by the hour. He looked at her with sad, shining eyes and reached out a trembling hand. The translator device beside her flickered to life. "You are fighting each other," it said in a soft voice. "Why?" Elena's throat tightened. She didn't know how to answer. "Because we're afraid," she whispered. "Afraid of losing control." The alien blinked slowly, as if trying to understand. "Fear makes fire," it said, and then it closed its eyes again. A few hours later, the military took full command. They locked down the ship, limiting the scientists' access. Dr. Vargas was furious. "You can't shut us out," she shouted at Colonel Harkins. "These beings need care." But he ignored her. "The care of humanity is my responsibility now," he said. "You've done your part." The soldiers began dismantling parts of the alien vessel, removing strange glowing panels and placing them into containers. The energy inside them was unlike anything humans had ever seen. When they touched it, their instruments overloaded. Some soldiers cheered, saying it could power cities for centuries. Others whispered that it could destroy them all if mishandled. But the work continued. Dr. Vargas watched helplessly as everything she believed in crumbled. She tried sending a message to the United Nations, pleading for protection of the aliens as living beings, not scientific material. But every time she transmitted her message, it was blocked. Someone was censoring her. Commander Patel warned her to stop before she was removed from the mission completely. "They're watching you," he said quietly. "Don't make yourself a target," but Elena couldn't stop. She had promised the aliens she would help them. She started recording everything. Every conversation, every order, every act of cruelty. She hid the data in secret channels of the Solace One computer system, labeling it as maintenance logs. The atmosphere on board became suffocating. The soldiers avoided the scientists. The crew stopped speaking freely. Everyone was afraid. Some began to doubt the mission entirely. Maybe Earth is right. one scientist said one day. Maybe we can't risk letting them live. Elena turned on him furiously. You sound just like them, she said. They're not a threat. We are. Then came the worst day of all. Without warning, Colonel Harkins ordered that the aliens be moved from the medical bay to the containment area. For their safety, he said, but Elena knew the truth. It wasn't safety, but it was control. She fought to stop them, screaming as soldiers pushed her aside. They're dying, she shouted. You'll kill them if you move them. But no one listened. The aliens were placed into sealed pods surrounded by energy shields. That night, one of the younger crew members came to Elena's quarters, pale and shaking. They're experimenting on them, he whispered. They're trying to extract something from their blood. Elena's heart sank. What are they doing? She asked. They said it's for research, he said, tears in his eyes. But it doesn't look like research. It looks like torture. Elena ran to the lab, but soldiers blocked her path. Restricted area, they said coldly. She begged them to let her in, but they refused. She could only hear faint cries through the thick doors, not human but full of pain and fear. She fell to her knees, sobbing. The beings she had sworn to protect were now prisoners of the very species that had promised to save them. Commander Patel tried to help her. He confronted Colonel Harkins in front of his men. This isn't what humanity stands for, he said. The colonel smirked. Humanity stands for survival, he replied. And survival requires power. Patel turned away, disgusted. You've turned a rescue into a robbery, he said. But Harkins didn't care. The following days were filled with chaos. The alien ship's systems began to react violently. The energy core, disturbed by the humans' interference, started to pulse dangerously. Warning alarms filled the halls. The soldiers panicked, shouting orders. Elena ran to the containment chamber and saw the aliens glowing brighter than before. Their eyes were filled with light and their bodies trembled. Stop, she screamed. You're killing them. But it was too late. One by one, the containment pods flickered and went dark. The aliens' glow faded until only silence remained. The entire ship grew still. Even the hum of the machine seemed to stop. Dr. Vargas pressed her hand to the glass of one pod, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered. We came to help, and we destroyed you. After that, the military declared the mission a success. They had retrieved alien materials and secured the site. Earth's leaders called it a triumph of science and security. The truth, that humanity had killed what it came to save, was buried under official reports. But Dr. Vargas refused to let it end that way. Using the hidden data logs she had created, she began encrypting messages into the communication systems, sending fragments of the real story out into deep space. She didn't know if anyone would ever find them, but she had to try. Her final message was simple. They asked for help. We brought fear. Beware of Earth. When Commander Patel found her in the control room, she looked exhausted but calm. They'll come for you, he warned. She nodded. Let them, she said quietly. At least someone out there will know the truth. As Solace One prepared to return to Earth, Elena stood by the viewing window one last time. The alien ship floated lifeless, a grave in the middle of the stars. She whispered a prayer, not to any god she knew, but to the ones they had lost. You trusted us, she said softly, and we failed you. Behind her, Earth's voice called again through the radio, cold, commanding, and proud of its victory. But out in the endless dark, far beyond human hearing, a faint signal began to echo once more, carrying her hidden words to whoever might be listening. And for the first time in centuries, the message wasn't from the aliens. It was from humanity, a confession written in light, floating through the silence of space. Years passed after the Solace One mission returned to Earth, but the truth never fully disappeared. The government had declared the mission a success, calling it a great step forward for humanity. They celebrated the discovery of new energy sources and advanced materials that could change the future of technology. On the surface, the world cheered. Newspapers printed photos of the crew smiling, medals shining on their uniforms. Commander Raj Patel stood beside Dr. Elena Vargas, though both of them looked like they were made of stone, silent, distant, haunted. Inside, they knew the truth. The aliens were dead. Their ship was gone. And what humanity had done in the name of progress could never be undone. Dr. Vargas returned to her quiet home near the coast. She avoided reporters, ignored invitations, and refused interviews. Her once bright career had turned into a shadow. She spent most of her days alone, walking along the beach, staring at the ocean waves that reminded her of space, endless, cold, and full of secrets. Every night, she dreamed of the aliens. Their glowing eyes, their trembling hands, the sound of their fading voices. Sometimes she woke up with tears streaming down her face, whispering their last words. Fear makes fire. She thought about releasing the hidden data she had saved, the real recordings of what happened on Solace 1. But she knew what would happen if she did. The government would silence her. People would call her a liar. The world wasn't ready for the truth. Not yet. Then one evening, while she was reviewing the last fragments of her secret files, her screen flickered. The code she had written, the one she used to hide her messages in the communication systems, suddenly began to respond. At first, she thought it was a system error, but then she saw the message. It was short. Only 2 words, "We hear." Her heart skipped a beat. She stared at the screen, not believing it. Could it be? Was someone or something answering from space? She quickly ran diagnostics, thinking maybe it was a mistake or a hack. But the message repeated again, this time with a faint pattern that looked like the energy pulses she had once seen from the alien's ship. Her hands trembled. "Impossible," she whispered. "You're gone." But the signal didn't stop. It grew stronger. It wasn't coming from Earth. It was coming from deep space, the same region where the alien ship had been destroyed. Somehow something had survived. Elena packed her bags and went straight to Commander Patel. He was living quietly on a small research base in the mountains, far from the city. When she arrived, he was surprised to see her, but the moment she showed him the signal, his eyes widened. "This can't be real," he said, studying the data. "We saw them die, I know," she said, "but maybe we didn't see everything." Patel hesitated. "If this is true, then Earth must never find out. You know what they'll do." "I know," Elena said firmly. "That's why we have to find them first." They decided to act in secret. With what little access they had left, they began contacting old colleagues, people who had also seen the truth and never forgiven themselves. Slowly, they gathered a small team, engineers, scientists, even one former soldier who had been on Solace 1. They all had the same haunted look in their eyes, and the same purpose, redemption. Using the signal data, they located its origin. It wasn't far from the old mission site, a few light years away. The signal pattern matched alien technology perfectly. Whatever it was alive and it was calling them. Within months, they built a small ship designed not for war or extraction, but for peace. It was quiet, light, and equipped with old alien energy cells that Elena had secretly preserved before leaving Solace 1. She called the ship Promise. Before they launched, Commander Patel looked at her and said, "If we go, there's no turning back. The moment Earth finds out, they'll hunt us." Elena smiled faintly. "Then we'll just have to stay hidden." They left Earth in silence, without approval, without headlines. To the world, they were gone, lost in space. But to them, it was freedom. As they traveled through the stars, old memories returned. The last time they had flown this route, they had been proud, full of hope. Now all they felt was guilt and determination. Each time the signal pulsed, it grew clearer. It wasn't random anymore. It was forming patterns, symbols, then words. Alive, waiting, light. When they finally reached the coordinates, they saw something they never expected. Floating among the debris of the old alien ship was a sphere of glowing energy, large, bright, and pulsing like a living heart. It wasn't metal, it wasn't stone. It was alive. They stopped the ship at a safe distance. "What is that?" one of the engineers whispered. Elena stared in awe. "It's them," she said softly. "Or what's left of them." The sphere shimmered, and then, slowly, beams of light began to stretch toward their ship. The lights didn't feel hostile. They felt warm, almost like a greeting. Inside the ship, the systems began to react on their own. The translator device lit up, the same one Elena had used years ago. A voice came through, soft, familiar, echoing like a memory. "Dr. Vargas," it said. Elena's breath caught in her throat. "I'm here," she whispered. "I thought you were gone." We became light, the voice said. Your fear broke us, but your hope called us back. Tears filled her eyes. I'm so sorry, she said. We didn't mean to destroy you, humanity. We lost our way. Some of you remembered, the voice said gently. And that is enough. The crew watched in silence as the glowing sphere pulsed brighter. The energy around it seemed to repair itself, like life returning to a broken body. The voice continued. You are changing. You can still learn. Commander Patel stepped forward. If you let us, we want to make it right, he said. We want to help, not harm. The sphere flickered for a moment, then a soft beam of light touched their ship. Every system went still, and then slowly images appeared on their screens. Visions of other worlds, other beings, all connected by light. It was the Elan's message, their history, their warning, and their hope. They had not only survived, they had evolved into something new, something beyond physical form. They had become part of the universe itself, spreading their consciousness through the energy that filled the stars. Elena and her team stayed for hours, communicating in silence through light and emotion rather than words. When it was time to leave, the Elan's final message appeared across the screen. Protect what you still have. Do not let fear guide your kind again. As they turned back toward Earth, the glowing sphere slowly faded into the distance, leaving behind a trail of light like a path through the stars. When they returned, Earth's forces were waiting. The mission had been discovered. The government demanded answers, but Elena refused to tell them anything. You wouldn't understand, she said. You never did. They tried to silence her again, but this time she wasn't afraid. Before her arrest, she had already transmitted the alien's message to every communication satellite in orbit. Within hours, the message spread across the world. Every screen, every broadcast, every device showed the same glowing words. Fear makes fire. Hope makes light. The world froze. People didn't know what it meant at first. But slowly, the truth began to rise. Whistleblowers came forward. Hidden files were leaked. The story of what had happened on Solace 1, the lies, the cruelty, the death, became public. The image of the Elan's glowing eyes spread like wildfire. For the first time, humanity saw itself for what it was, both destroyer and dreamer. The revelation changed everything. People protested, leaders fell, and laws were rewritten to protect any life, human or not, beyond Earth. Years later, when Dr. Elena Vargas was an old woman, she would sit by the same ocean, looking at the night sky. Sometimes she thought she could still see that faint glowing trail of light in the stars. And one night, as she watched the horizon, a single bright flash crossed the sky, silent, beautiful, and familiar. She smiled, whispering to herself, I kept my promise. Then she closed her eyes, knowing that somewhere in the endless sea of space, the Elans were still watching, not as enemies, not as gods, but as a reminder of what humanity could become when it chose light over fear.